3:52 p.m. Harlem, spring 1954. Scaffolding on Lenox Avenue threw striped shadows across a bank entrance that still wore old brass. Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson stood half a block off the doors, coat buttoned, hat brim low, hands empty and visible. A patrolman lingered by a parking meter, watching the entrance and watching Bumpy, deciding which one belonged to the city. Two shopkeepers waited with folders pressed to their chests, glancing at the glass as if it could refuse them without opening. Across the avenue, a realtor's window displayed white model towers, clean and future-minded, replacing blocks that still breathed. The revolving door turned with a sigh and let Bumpy into tile and hush. A teller window snapped shut, then opened again as if the building were breathing through a slit. He did not approach the counters first. He stopped behind the last man in line, letting the room choose whether to acknowledge him. The security guard looked up, recognized him, and fixed his eyes on the ceiling clock, choosing not to be the first to move. At a manager's desk behind a low gate, a white banker in a crisp shirt sorted loan applications into two piles without hiding the separation. The nameplate read H.K. Whitman. The banker kept the tone of policy, the kind that makes refusal sound like weather and makes humiliation feel like procedure. A grocer set his folder down. "I've been on this block 12 years, he said. "I need a loan to expand before the rents jump." Whitman flipped through pages with two fingers like he disliked the paper. "Your collateral is informal," he said. "It's inventory," the grocer answered. "It's receipts." Whitman set the folder aside, not angry, not rushed. "This branch is not in the business of financing Harlem experiments," he said, loud enough for the line to hear the phrase land. A woman from a beauty shop stepped forward next, hair pinned neat, hands steady. "I have deposits here," she said. "Payroll, signed leases, a bookkeeper." Whitman smiled without warmth. "Deposits are welcome," he said. "Loans are discretionary." A clerk in the corner typed the refusals into a ledger, each keystroke clean. Outside the glass, a construction foreman laughed with a realtor and pointed at a row of buildings like they were inventory. Whitman's eyes finally found Bumpy, not as a customer, as a question. "Mr. Johnson," he said, enjoying the formality. "I assume you're not here for a mortgage." Bumpy's face stayed neutral. "Harlem's here," he replied, nodding at the folders. Whitman let a pause stretch, then offered his line like a rule. "Harlem doesn't qualify," he said. "We lend where the city is going, not where it's been." The room did not shout. Knuckles whitened on paper. A chair stopped scraping. Silence settled heavier than argument, and Whitman mistook it for acceptance because denial delivered politely can look like order. A man near the door, an observer in a good coat, smirked and murmured, "That's that," as if the banker had spoken for the whole avenue. The teller's stamp came down again, loud in the quiet. Bumpy did not contest the sentence. He let the fluorescent hum fill the space Whitman had opened, and he let the line behind him hold its breath long enough to make the banker feel heard. Whitman tapped a stamped rejection form and slid it toward the grocer. "Next," he said, already reaching for the next file. Bumpy stepped closer to the desk without stepping into Whitman's space. His hands remained open, visible, the posture of a man who had learned that the first accusation is often manufactured. "You're building a record," he said. "Tazdet," voice level. Whitman's eyebrows lifted. "We're running a bank," he answered. Bumpy's gaze traveled through objects, not faces, the wall calendar, the stamp pad, the branch code imprint, the ledger where refusals were being typed, the carbon sheet beneath the clerk's page. He noted the security guard's name stitched over the pocket, the guard's radio model, the serial numbers on a drawer lock. The room offered details the way it offered air. He took them without asking. Whitman leaned back, performing calm. "Harlem keeps cash," he said, and cash is not a plan. Bumpy nodded once, as if the banker had confirmed the exact weakness to exploit. "Cash moves," he said. "So do customers." The security guard shifted, waiting for a disturbance. Bumpy denied him the moment by refusing heat. He turned slightly toward the line, addressing the room without giving Whitman a duel to headline. "Take your papers back," he said. "Keep your copies. Keep every stamp." A barber with ink-stained fingers asked, "Quiet?" Then where do we go? Bumpy answered in the same tone. Where money gets used, he said bad. No begging, no arguments, only numbers. Whitman chuckled, thin. Numbers are my department, he said. Bumpy looked at the posted rates, the vault door, the framed slogan that promised community service in serif letters. That's why you'll notice them, he replied. He took a small notebook from his coat and wrote down the branch address as if it weren't already burned into every corner of Lenox. Then he wrote Whitman's name, the clerk's initials from the ledger margin, and the exact time on the ceiling clock. He did not threaten, he did not promise. He asked a question that sounded like accounting. How many of these did you stamp today? Whitman's smile held. Enough, he said. Bumpy's eyes went to the two piles on the desk. And how many from this block? He asked. Whitman's jaw tightened. That's not your concern. Bumpy's reply stayed measured. It became mine when you said it in public, he said. He turned back to the line. Withdraw what you can without noise, he said. Instead, deposit it where it will be used. If anyone asks why, say the bank chose its customers. The observer near the door laughed once, trying to make it light. Bumpy did not look at him. Outsiders mistook restraint for defeat. He let them. He tipped his hat to the line, not to Whitman, and walked out through the revolving door at the same pace he'd entered, leaving the banker with a quiet room and a stack of refusals that suddenly felt like liabilities. Outside, the street carried wet concrete and hot metal from the scaffolds. Bumpy crossed to a diner with blinds half drawn, chose the booth with clean sightlines, and ordered coffee that arrived and remained untouched. Flashwalker slid into the opposite seat, suit neat, eyes already reading window reflections for tales. Whitman, Bumpy said, setting the banker's name on the table like a check. Harlem doesn't qualify. Flash opened a slim folder. Deposit slips sat inside, collected from shopkeepers who bank their week in that branch, each stamped with the same code and time window. He's sorting people, Flash said. Bumpy traced the stamp imprint with a fingertip. Then we sort the cash, he replied. A runner delivered another envelope. Payroll days marked, rent dates circled, supplier schedules written in block letters. Harlem's calendar as a machine. Bumpy did not moralize. He assigned movement. No more payroll through Whitman's windows, he said. No more rent checks clearing here. No night drops. No community deposits to decorate their books. Flash moved to payphones that were not attached to bars. He asked for Mamie Hatcher, then a church deacon, then a union hall where veterans kept their minutes straight. Each call carried the same instruction in different phrasing. Move money quietly, move it with receipts, move it on time. In a back room above a tailor shop, an accountant laid out alternatives. A credit union on a 135th, a small broker downtown who preferred clients that didn't advertise, a funeral home safe that never drew raids, a policy banker who could float short-term loans using numbers receipts as collateral. Bumpy listened, then cut the list down to entries that would survive police curiosity. Paper only, he said. Signatures, carbon copies, no stories. A young owner asked, loans? Bumpy slid a clean sheet forward. We lend to ourselves, he said. Not with mercy, by contract. A Barbers Association secretary arrived with a receipt book and a list of dues paid in cash. Bumpy tapped the list. Dues become deposits, he said. Deposits become leverage. A pharmacist offered to front inventory if repayment came through the new notes on fixed dates. Bumpy accepted the terms, then tightened them. Penalties, co-signers, signatures. So the network behaved like a bank without a lobby. Flash fed carbon paper into a typewriter and produced promissory notes with plain interest terms, dates, and co-signers, names that carried weight in Harlem's commerce. Club owners agreed to hold deposits for payroll transfers. A cab stand dispatcher agreed to deliver sealed envelopes to designated basements at exact minutes. Bumpy gathered more records, fee schedules, bounce check notices, the bank's printed promise to serve the community, and an advertisement clipped from a newspaper that showed Whitman smiling beside the branch doors. He underlined serve. They want our deposits, he said. They'll learn what deposits look like when service turns selective. Two messengers left with sealed packets, one to the credit union, one to the broker, one to a lawyer who knew how to translate patterns into complaints. No threats, no guns, no boasting. Only a reroute plan written in ink that could be audited. When the branch lights came on again, the revolving door turned less often. Teller drawers opened, then closed, waiting for cash that did not arrive. Whitman stood at his desk with yesterday's rejection forms stacked neat, watching the lobby the way a man watches a street that has stopped respecting him. A barber entered, polite, and requested a cashier's check for his full balance. The teller asked, "All of it?" The barber nodded without explanation. A grocer came next, then a beauty shop owner, then a funeral director with a ledger under his arm. Each withdrawal was legal, clean, and stamped. The guard's radio stayed quiet because there was no disturbance to report. Across Lenox, a credit union's line grew long and orderly. Men signed membership cards. Women deposited payroll envelopes. A clerk stamped receipts and filed them, building a paper trail thicker than the bank's explanations. In basements and back rooms, promissory notes were signed and countersigned, interest calculated on scratch paper, then typed clean. Whitman called downtown and spoke in a low voice about reserves. The answer came back impatient. "It's Harlem. Let it settle." Whitman looked through the glass and realized settling meant watching customers relocate while he kept smiling. Police attention drifted toward the new lines. A patrolman lingered near the credit union, eyes hungry for a reason. He found none. The crowd behaved like customers, not corner men. The absence of visible crime made the badge look foolish. The badge moved on. Harlem's businesses adjusted with discipline. Payroll ran through trusted hands. Rent was paid through money orders purchased in small amounts at multiple windows. Delivery suppliers who had relied on bank credit were paid from pooled funds held by a policy banker acting as a clearinghouse. No one bragged. No one advertised. The system tightened the way a ship tightens hatches before weather. Whitman tried to reassert control by offering special appointments. Invitations went to a grocer, a church deacon, a building contractor. The invitations returned unanswered, not with hostility, with procedure. When the branch posted expanded lending hours, the sign hung like a joke. A teller reported thin cash in the drawers. A supervisor requested an emergency shipment from downtown. The approval arrived with a delay and with conditions. Trucks came later and smaller because drivers disliked Lenox after dark. A driver asked for an escort. The bank's security could not provide one. The street noticed that the bank now needed protection from the neighborhood it had refused. The ledger showed the wound. Deposits down, withdrawals up, fee income thinning, night drops empty. Whitman began canceling lunch to stay visible, not from devotion, from fear of being absent when the next number landed. It landed as paper. A lawyer's complaint arrived in a plain envelope, citing the bank's printed promises and the branch's pattern of refusals with dates, names, and stamped receipts. No slogans, no speeches, just inconsistent criteria made legible. Downtown counsel read it and recognized risk. A downtown supervisor arrived unannounced, walked the lobby, and asked Whitman for his rejection logs. Whitman produced them like a man handing over a weapon he had enjoyed using. The supervisor's face stayed flat. "This branch is becoming expensive," he said, and the word expensive carried more authority than any argument. A brass notice appeared on the branch door, screwed on crooked so rain could pool in the grooves. Temporarily closed for renovations. Inside, desks sat covered in brown paper. Cardboard boxes lined the hallway, stamped with branch codes and route dates. A downtown man supervised file removal with a pencil behind his ear, turning Whitman's office into inventory. On Lenox Avenue, the credit union stayed open late, its line calm and steady. A broker's clerk downtown processed checks stamped from Harlem addresses without questions because the deposits arrived with perfect paperwork. In a church basement, promissory notes were filed in a metal cabinet and paid on schedule, interest tallied like rent. Whitman did not deliver a speech. His car stopped coming. His name disappeared from the branch directory and reappeared on a floor downtown where windows did not face Harlem and customers did not wait with folders. A patrol car rolled past the dark bank and did not slow. There was nothing to raid, no crowd to push, no stage to own. A barber counted payroll at a kitchen table and sealed the envelope with tape. A grocer wrote a deposit slip into a ledger that belonged to his neighborhood. A contractor paid his supplier with a cashier's check issued blocks away from Whitman's old window. Across the avenue, the realtor's office kept its lights on, but the phone rang longer before anyone answered. Contractors who once parked deposits at Whitman's branch began asking the credit union for letters of reference instead. Inside a private room behind a restaurant, withdrawal receipts were stacked in order, each bank stamp aligned like a verdict. Rejection forms sat beside them, two piles telling the same story in opposite ink. Harlem's capital moved through routes it controlled, and the bank learned a simple arithmetic. Deposits without respect were temporary, and branches that refused Harlem could be refused back into silence.